Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. We'll continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Deliverance from Error, Al-Munqidh min al-Dalal. And in the last reading, we began reading the divisions of the philosophers, the sciences as Imam Al-Ghazali calls them. And we have read about math, we have read about logic, and we will begin reading about the physical sciences, al-tabi'iyat. He said, the physical sciences are a study of the world, of the heavens and their stars, and the sublunar world's simple bodies, such as water, air, earth, and fire. And obviously, this is really an old they are not elements, but this is how they believed at one point. So that's not the al-ajsam al-mufrada, simple bodies. They are not. And composite bodies, such as animals, plants, and minerals. They also study the causes of their changing and being transformed and being mixed. That is like medicine study of the human body and its principal and subsidiary organs, and the causes of the alteration of the mixtures of its humors. And just as religion does not require the repudiation of the science of medicine, so also does not require the repudiation of the science of physics, except for certain specific questions, which we have mentioned in our book, The Incoherence of the Philosophers. There, Imam Al-Ghazali differed with them. 20 issues, on 17 of them, he declared the philosophers or the issues as bid'ah, and the 3 issues as pertaining to unbelief. And Imam Ghazali will mention these 3. And there is another 4th issue that he mentions. In fact, many issues really. The issue of the necessary relation between cause and effect, and one might say that why Imam Ghazali would adopt such a position. Remember the story of Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, when he mocked the idols, destroyed the idols except the largest one. When he mocked the idols of his people, they threw him into fire to burn him alive, and the fire did not burn Ibrahim alayhi salam, which means that there is no necessary automatic relation between cause and effect. This would allow room for such a miracle, for everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm trying to explain Imam Al-Ghazali's position in general. For all practical reasons, the end of Surah Al-Kahf is relevant for, if I were to address the issue of the cause and effect, I will use the story of Dhul Qarnayn at the end of Surah Al-Kahf, where the cause and effect has been highlighted. I'm talking about all the practical issues that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established these causes in the universe. Definitely they will be considered secondary causes, in a sense, but nevertheless, one needs to take that into consideration. At any rate, we'll continue, and inshallah, the three issues will soon be addressed in the text. One of the issues that Imam Ghazali mentioned among the many introductions, the incoherence of the philosophers, how philosophy has more than one preface, if you will. And in one of them, he calls on Muslims to unite in the face of uh, the philosophers. He said, ilban wahidan, one front, one body, one position, one stance. So that's really a remarkable thing. So we talk about the all the sects that could still fall within the fold of Islam, one way or the other. He asked for all of them to unite in this case. Apart from these, it will be clear upon reflection that any other points on which the physicists must be opposed are subsumed in those we have alluded to. The basic point regarding all of them is for you to know that nature is totally subject to God Most High, which every Muslim believes that. In fact, Imam Ghazali would say that true tawheed, true belief in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will entail that seeing everything, every action, every event being from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether you like it or not, whether it's really an event that you'd interpret as good for you, or you might interpret, I say you interpret it because there are certain things that you detest, that you don't agree, you don't want it to happen. When there are calamities, when there are definitely these tribulations, the tests that people go through, it does not act of itself, but is used as an instrument by its creator. The sun, moon, stars, and the elements are subject to God's command. None of them effects any act by and of itself. The metaphysics, the ilahiyat, the metaphysic in it is in the metaphysical sciences that most of the philosophers' errors are found, owing to the fact that they could not carry out objective demonstration according to the conditions they had postulated in logic. They differed a great deal about metaphysical questions. Aristotle's doctrine on these matters, as transmitted by Al-Farabi and Ibn Sina, approximates the teachings of the Islamic philosophers, but the sum of their errors come down to 20 heads, titles, in 3 of which they must be taxed with unbelief, and in 17 with innovation. It was to refute their doctrine on these 20 questions that we composed our book, The Incoherence, Tahafut. In the three questions, they were opposed to the belief of all Muslims vis-a-vis uh, in their affirming: number one, that men's bodies will not be assembled on the last day. They will not be gathered, they will not be resurrected, but only disembodied spirits will be rewarded and punished. And the rewards and punishments will be spiritual, not corporal. Not corporal. They were indeed right in affirming the spiritual rewards and punishments, for these also are certain, but they falsely denied the corporal rewards and punishments and blasphemed the revealed law in their stated views. Number two, the second question in their declaration: God Most High knows universals but not particulars. This also is out and out unbelief. On the contrary, the truth is that there does not escape him the weight of an atom in the heavens or in the earth. The third question is: they are maintaining the eternity of the world, past and future. No Muslim has ever professed any of their views on these questions. On other matters, such as the denial of the divine attributes and their assertion that God is knowing by his essence, not by a knowledge superadded to his essence, and similar views of theirs, their doctrine is close to that of the Mu'tazilites. إنه عالم بالذات لا بعلم زائد. But there is no need to tax the Mu'tazilites with unbelief because of such views. We have already mentioned that in our book, the clear criterion for distinguishing between Islam and godlessness. فيصل التفرقة بين الإسلام والزندقة. As well as what shows the error of anyone who precipitously brands unbelief everything that clashes with his own doctrine. In the political sciences, all that the philosophers have to say comes down to administrative maxims concerned with secular affairs. Again, we have spoken about uh, the use of the word secular, but at least we'll understand that is أمور دنيوية. They are not they don't pertain to the mundane, really. And the government of rulers. They simply took these over from the scriptures revealed to the prophets by God Most High, and from the maxims handed down from the predecessors of the prophets. All they have to say about the moral sciences comes down to listing the qualities and habits of the soul and recording their generic and specific kinds, and the way to cultivate the good ones and combat the bad. This they simply took over from the sayings of the Sufis. These were godly men who applied themselves assiduously to God, invoking God, invoking the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dhikrillah ta'ala, resisting passion, and following the way leading to God Most High by shunning worldly pleasures. In the course of their spiritual combat, the good habits of the soul and its shortcomings had been disclosed to them, and also the defects that vitiate its actions. All this they set forth plainly. Then the philosophers took over these ideas and mixed them with their own doctrines, using the luster afforded by them to promote the circulation of their own false teaching. There was indeed in their age, nay, but there is in every age, a group of godly men of whom God Most High never leaves the world destitute. For they are the pillars of the earth. Really, the Arabic is, of course, autad, okay, and by their blessings, the divine mercy descends upon earth dwellers, as is declared in the tradition from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad, in which he says, "Because of them you receive rain, and thanks to them you receive sustenance. And among them were the companions of the cave." Such godly men existed in ancient times, as the Quran declares. This is about Surah Al-Kahf. ومنهم كان أصحاب الكهف وكانوا يسار في الأزمنة على ما نطق به القرآن. This is chapter 18 of the Quran. In fact, the cave is named after literally the cave in which they stayed for 309 years, 300 plus 9, 300 solar plus 9, that would make them, the 309 will be the lunar equivalent. Now, back to the hadith. It is not a tradition. Okay? It is not tradition. And among them, the people of the cave, this should be outside the text. This is obviously added by Imam Al-Ghazali, but the text of the hadith itself, because of them you receive rain and thanks to them you receive sustenance, Even that much is not a hadith. Different. At-Tabarani did mention it in his uh, uh, in his compendium, the Kabir, and the narrator. There are two narrators that are problematic on the chain of narrators. One of them is Amr bin Waqid, who has been rendered as a weak narrator uh, by the scholars, by the Jumhur. وهو متروك. He has been abandoned. He's not really one of the not one of the narrators who could be trusted. So from the Islamic philosophers mixing the prophetic utterances and the sayings of the Sufis with their own writings, two evils have sprung. Again, the word afa, as in the case of math. One in the case of the man who accepts their ethical teaching, and the other in the case of the man who rejects it. The evil in the case of the man who rejects their ethical teaching is very serious. For some dim-witted persons suppose since that borrowed prophetic and Sufi doctrine has been set down in the philosophers' writings and mixed with their false doctrine, that this doctrine must be eschewed and never cited, and even disavowed whenever anyone cites it. This is their attitude because they have heard that doctrine in the first place only from the philosophers. So their weak minds straightway judge it to be erroneous because the one who voices it is in error on other matters. This is like the case of a man who hears a Christian say, "There is no God but God. Jesus is the apostle of God," and then denies it, saying, "This is what the Christians say." Such a man does not defer judgment while he ponders whether the Christian is an unbeliever because of that statement or because of his denial of Muhammad's prophethood. God's blessing and peace be upon him. Hence, if he is an unbeliever only because of his denial of the letter, he should not be contradicted in matters other than what he disbelieves. I mean, something which is true in itself, even though the Christian also holds it to be true. This is the practice of those dim witted men who know the truth by men, and not men by the truth. The intelligent man, on the contrary, follows the advice of the master of the intelligent, Ali, God be pleased with him. Do not know the truth by men, but rather know the truth, and you will know its adherents. لا تعرف الحق بالرجال، اعرف الحق تعرف أهله. The intelligent man, therefore, first knows the truth, then he considers what is actually said by someone. If it is true, he accepts it, whether the speaker be wrong or right in other matters. Indeed, such a man will often be intent on extracting what is true from the involved utterances of the erring. since he is aware that gold is usually found mixed with dirt. The money changer suffers no harm if he puts his hand into the sack of the trickster and pulls out the genuine pure gold from among the false and counterfeit coins, so long as he can rely on his professional acumen. It is not it is not the expert money changer, but rather the inexperienced bumpkin who must be restrained from dealing with the trickster. Who must be restrained from dealing with the trickster. Likewise, a clumsy and stupid person must be kept away from the seashore, not the proficient swimmer. And a child must be prevented from handling a snake, not the skilled snake charmer. It is certainly true, since most men have an overweening opinion of their own competence and cleverness and think they are perfectly equipped intellectually to discern truth from error, that the door must be blocked to prevent the generality of men. As far as possible from pursuing the works of those addicted to error, for they will by no means be safe from the second evil, which we shall presently mention, even if they do manage to escape the evil which we have just noted. I think there's a general problem today. Uh, every university has its own philosophy that tries to share with the students through uh, university required courses. Regardless of what you study law, you study medicine, you study engineering, you study philosophy, you study. So, in general, the university will have its own philosophy. And let's say, uh, I know, and more from my experience in different universities around the world, uh, they try to share with the students to they want the students to know about the great books of the let's say Western civilization, the 100 great books, as many as possible. History of philosophy. It could be uh, certain universities like Jesuit universities. They would have they would include Catholic theologians who are also philosophers. So there is a certain philosophy in many Arab countries today, and I would say also some Muslim countries. What's the core? What part of the curriculum equips the student to decipher the, let's say, the Islamic worldview? Uh, I think there's a serious problem. Um I know a Palestinian university that you don't study much Arabic. I remember a former um, academic vice president who said that the reason is that the students know Arabic. So there are remedial courses in English, and for all students of the university there are so several courses, but not Arabic. The same thing applies to watering down the uh, Islamic Islamic literature in general. Uh, couple of literally downgrading the course on Islam. It became 2 credit hours devoid really of both the letter and spirit. If you talk about the great books of Islamic civilization, they are not introduced really at all. And this is a serious issue. I think um, if you talk about those in office, ministers of education, intellectuals, they should really address this issue and what are our greatest 100 books. I'm not talking about the Quran, I'm not talking about the Hadith. Of course, they should always be there, but the students are not exposed neither to the language nor to the values nor to the worldview. Back to Imam al-Ghazali's text, and I think it's rather a lengthy entry here, and we'll read another paragraph or two, and then we'll continue tomorrow, inshallah. So again, it is certainly true, since most men have an overweening opinion of their own competence and cleverness and think they are perfectly equipped intellectually to discern truth from error, that the door must be blocked to prevent the generality of men as far as possible from pursuing the works of those addicted to error, for they will be so they will be by no means be safe from the second evil, which we shall presently mention, even if they do manage to escape the evil which we have just noted. Some of the remarks found here and there in our works on the mysteries of the religious sciences were objected to by a group of men whose minds were not thoroughly grounded in those sciences and whose mental vision was not open to the ultimate aims of our teachings. They allege that those remarks were taken from things said by the early philosophers. As a matter of fact, some of them were my own original ideas, and it is not far fetched that ideas should coincide, just as a horse hoof may fall on the print left by another, and some are found in the scriptures, and the sense of most is found in the writings of the Sufis. And I think this is extremely important notion that Imam Ghazali said that he himself came up with some of these ideas that are also shared by others. Yes. Suffice it, inshallah, for this time until tomorrow بإذن الله عز وجل. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.